everybody?
Not everybody. Former child actor Macaulay Culkin saved the day for the defense team by coming to court to testify he had slept with Michael Jackson frequently and was never molested.
This is not somebody saying, I saw something. This is Culkin saying, you're talking about me, and I'm coming in here to tell you this didn't happen to me.
Other young men who shared Michael's bed came forward too.
And the other 3 men who were supposedly molested testified that they were not. That weighed a lot on me, that they were put out there as being molested and deny that.
But with those witnesses on the stand, the prosecutor seized the moment to reinforce his theory that Michael Jackson is a sexual deviant. With witness Wade Robson, the prosecutor brought out Michael's extensive collection of pornography.
He was shown a book, another book taken from Michael Jackson's house, with men engaged in sodomy, oral copulation, that type of thing.
And basically brought it out and said, what do you think of a man who has pictures like these? Would you leave your kids with this person?
And Wade Robson said, under his breath, looking down, yes, that would bother me. And it was a stunning moment that gave me a really sick feeling.
But the defense recovered, pressing on with attacks on the credibility of the accuser and his mother. Earlier in the trial, she testified that she had been held hostage at Neverland. But Mesereau produced a witness who had given her a spa treatment at that time.
Did she call for help? No. Did she tell the person at the spa that she was being held against her will? No. What did she do? She had a body wax.
She went on shopping sprees and even had dental surgery, never once mentioning she was being held captive. The defense knew that its attack on the mother would stick, thanks to the work of Chief Investigator Scott Ross. He had uncovered a grifter scheme, which the accuser's mother used to teach her children how to get money from people.
She taught them what to say, and they said it. They had typed out notes that they would come home every day from school, and they would read from them. These kids were taught to disarm people. There was a consistent statement made by almost every witness that had dealings with the family that these kids would come up and greet them with a hug. These kids would write cards, we love you, you're like a big sister to us, can we come stay at your house? This was a pattern that they had set.
And when the kids scored some money, says Ross, the mother would put it in a special bank account.
She was the only one that had access to it. She was the only signer. She was filtering money through it.
Throughout the trial, the defense successfully portrayed the accuser as an astute young liar, scripted by his mother. But some observers thought the strategy was flawed because it allowed the prosecutor to counter the charges with his most damning evidence against Michael Jackson. Late in the trial, he showed a videotaped police interview done with the accuser close to the time of the alleged molestation.
And then you just see that pure tape of a kid-like, you know, reluctant to say anything. He's not cunning. He's not a grifter. He's not out for money, at least not in that tape.
For the jury, it was a powerful piece of evidence.
And that kind of turned my opinion around as far as how I felt about this case. You look at the accuser and you say, well, do you believe his story about being molested? And to me, it seemed very believable.
And from that moment, I thought that there was a seismic shift in the case. That the defense, which had been out in front and winning, was suddenly 4 feet deep in a hole that they had to find a way out of.
The defense had one ace in the hole, a red carpet of celebrity witnesses who would say the accuser's family had tried to get money from them.
It never happened. I mean, Jay Leno testified that the family never asked him for anything. They never asked him for any money.
They talked about Chris Tucker, you know, being a stronger witness. He didn't have that.
Tom Mesereau had also hinted he would put Michael Jackson on the stand. The press eagerly awaited the moment, but in the end, only videotaped interviews of Michael were shown.
Well, I told the jury in my opening statement they'd hear from him, and they did. They heard hours of interviews with him in the trial on videotape. And at some point, I still thought of putting him on, but realized they had not proved their case, and they never were going to prove it. so we made a decision that it wasn't necessary.
The defense was able to have Michael Jackson talk to those jurors without the threat of cross-examination. And it was a brilliant move and a fortunate move for the defense. It's always a risky proposition to put anyone, especially Michael Jackson, on the stand. This is a person, you could have a day with him just talking about his allegations of cosmetic surgery.
Despite its dream team of lawyers, the defense had suffered some major setbacks. But in the end, most analysts agreed Michael Jackson's lawyers made far fewer mistakes than the prosecution.
They had so much in this case, the defense, you know, ammunition on the family.
I think if you're the defense going into deliberations, you're about as happy as you can get and about as hopeful you can get that things are going to go your way.
One of the first things we decided that we had to look at him as just like any other individual, not just as a celebrity. And once we got that established, that we could go beyond that.
On June 3rd, after 3 months of testimony, the jury began to weigh the case against Michael Jackson.
I really think that it went rather smoothly for this kind of a high-profile case. We were all trying to come to a common ground and decide, you know, based on the evidence, what's going on here.
As the jury deliberated slowly and carefully, the frenzy outside the courthouse raged on. Media from 33 countries camped outside, waiting for a verdict. Jackson's fans kept up their vigil outside the courthouse and outside the gates of Neverland. Meanwhile, inside the Jackson Ranch, the star and his family waited for news, while outsiders offered their own statements on the case.
He is exuding confidence and strength, though he has excruciating pain in his back. He expresses great confidence in this juror's capacity to be fair.
The wait was longer than many expected. But on Monday, June 13th, after 30 hours of deliberations, the jury made a decision.
In the People versus Michael Jackson case, the jury has reached a verdict. The verdict will be returned in open court at 1:30.
The Jackson family left the Neverland compound and drove in a phalanx of SUVs to the courthouse. A dazed-looking Michael Jackson walked slowly through security. And once he entered the courtroom, the court clerk read the verdict.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of conspiracy.
Not guilty on all counts. Moments later, while his fans cheered, the king of pop left the court in silence. His attorney said it all.
Justice was done. The man's innocent. He always was.
The decision was an enormous blow to District Attorney Thomas Sneddon, who had hoped to convict Michael Jackson in 1993 as well.
I've been a prosecutor for 37 years, and in 37 years I've never quarreled with a jury's verdict, and I'm not going to start today.
But the jurors said Sneddon had dropped the ball. He just didn't give them enough to go on.
Actually, lack of evidence, I guess, was what we used to reach the verdict.
The evidence in this trial was not strong. The accuser wasn't good on the witness stand. His story had a lot of holes in it, and so did the story of his family. And I think jurors looked at all of that and said, we're not going to send a man away for many years to prison based on this family.
The jury had to look at the evidence and say, you know what, maybe he's done bad things in the past. Maybe he did bad things in 93 and 94 and 95, but we don't believe he did it this time. And that's really what we're being asked. Did he do it this time?
If you're accusing somebody of a felony, then, you know, that person is entitled to be convicted without a reasonable doubt. If this just wasn't the case where Michael Jackson was going to be found guilty of this, and that's not to say that he's an innocent man.
In the end, the jury did not trust the accuser or his mother, who rubbed many of them the wrong way.
I disliked it intensely when she snapped her fingers at us. That's when I thought, don't snap your fingers at me, lady.
The taint of the mother just rubbed off on this entire family.